The first two episodes of Skeleton Crew are here, and its opening has brought us some big questions and some new surprising theories on the rest of the series. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
Skeleton Crew is here. We've watched the first two episodes, and we've got some thoughts here. Mm-hmm. What are your first impressions?
First of all, I am thoroughly impressed. I am very pleased. It feels Star Wars while also being so fresh, so new, so different than what we've ever seen in Star Wars. I'm pleasantly surprised.
It is a very different perspective on Star Wars, and I love the flavors that they're adding to Star Wars. Clearly, you see the influence of the Goonies and the Amblin-esque style storytelling, very much on the E.T. Goonies style in terms of how they're introducing the characters. I think a good callback in terms of Goonies in particular is the fact that they open up with the villains, they show some background, and that's how the Goonies opens up. Yep. So I think it's a fun era-specific style that they're bringing in here. And then just introducing the characters as themselves separately, having the sub-threads, and then bringing them together, I think was fun. It's going in a very different direction than I thought it would based off of the trailer, which I always enjoy. Mm-hmm. I think there's a level of mystery that level of misdirection adds that I really enjoy and I really appreciate in this effort. I feel like if I was just looking at the first episode, I would say this doesn't feel very Star Wars.
Sure. But
then they go into the second episode and it's okay, I see what you're doing here. You're trying to level set the story that we're getting here, the structure, the difference. The whole point of them starting out on this planet is to make you feel that hey, this actually isn't Star Wars. As we start to learn in episode 2, before we do get into the spoilers, I do think overall this is a good direction for Star Wars. I think it really fits into the galaxy well, and I feel like we are getting something new and different. Mm-hmm. That is, it's worth watching if you're looking at this and you're trying to find out if you should watch it. I think so far so good. The characters are great. The story that they're spinning is very unique, and it's surprising in a way that I didn't really expect it to be.
Also, I think that the production, I'm very critical about the production, and It feels really good.
Yes.
It really feels like this is a Disney production that they have the money to put behind it, and it felt like they had the time to really do justice. It doesn't feel like it's on the volume. It doesn't feel contained. It feels large and expansive, and these characters have room to run and do
they had
the things.
Speed. The speeder bike chase actually felt like Speedy.
Yep.
In a way that was really nice.
Yeah, and these kids are really good at acting. I feel like they know what they're doing.
Yes.
In a way that still feels like kids,
Yep. Yeah. If you cringe at kids just in any medium, you're probably not going to enjoy this. But if you can appreciate children in this role with so much weight on their backs and still being able to really put in the work and feel like they're in Star Wars and not just children playing in Star Wars, they do a good job.
Yep.
And I'm excited to see where it goes as we continue in this story. Mm-hmm. But now getting into spoilers and details on that, when we get into the second episode, that's when things feel Star Wars. That's when we start to expand out. And I love the fact that this is a reverse secret civilization treasure hunt story.
Yeah.
Instead of being on the pirate side and they spin out and now have to hunt for this magic land that they've been reading about in fairy tales. They're from the magic land. Mm-hmm. They are on, it's reverse Treasure Planet.
Yep.
This is, it's growing up on the planet that everyone hears stories about. And then through happenstance, through just dumb luck and coincidence, you're now spun outside of this realm where the rest of the world doesn't believe that you exist, or if they do, they think it's a myth and not an actual place. Mm-hmm. But here you are with old Republic credits, with this level of currency that is just unheard of at this time. This is the New Republic era. And part of the interviews that they had behind the scenes was that Aden is a very old player in the Star Wars galaxy. Apparently, according to what they're talking about in terms of what they were going into it with, they wanted to have this Star Wars universe, this galaxy, and this planet, more accurately, be originally an Old Republic kind of stronghold. Like, this was a location that held big significance within the broader galaxy. And now, from what we can tell from these first 2 episodes, now it's almost like a Giver-esque experience. Like, there's a boundary that they're not supposed to go past. There is no transport in or out of the planet. There is a level of control over the citizens of this, at least the city, but it seems like it goes across the whole planet.
Oh, yeah.
That is so fascinating to see this different view, this suburban sprawl, this controlled, clean, human planet.
Almost a utopia thing.
Yes.
That was the feeling that I was getting, was that this planet is like this study, or this like case study of a utopia. Like, that's what it feels like. That's why no one can leave, no one can come in, but there is this like very rigid structure that you can see kind of poking through the seams through the kids' eyes. It's like these adults are very regimented, very much like having these expectations on these kids that feels small-minded, feels small world. So
yes.
it definitely seems
there isn't an influx of any other kind of experience. There isn't culture coming from somewhere else influencing this planet. This planet is very close-knit. What is happening here is what's probably happening over the whole planet. It is something that there isn't cross-contamination or cross-pollination of these different ideas and cultures like we've seen in other Star Wars. Like, this is, which is why I'm picking up that like this doesn't feel Star Wars, is because it's not Star Wars.
Right.
Because everything we know about Star Wars is beat up, old, ragged, and shared and loved, hated, and built upon and fixed and broken and then fixed again. Whereas this planet is so different.
So fresh,
clean,
new,
and pristine, and well taken care of, and
not messed with.
Everything works like a clock. Whereas the rest of the galaxy, all of the examples that we've seen in Andor, in the Mandalorian, in Book of Boba Fett, in Ahsoka, in the original trilogy, and the prequel trilogy, and the sequel trilogy, and all the things that fill in the gaps, everything that we see there is the opposite of what is on this planet.
Yep.
And I think that is so fun.
Scraping by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are, where this world is set up so clean and pristine and like clockwork. And now you have these characters that come from clearly great privilege, if you're looking at it from the pirate's perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Which is such a fun contrast. That in and of itself is very conflicting. That is the story and the conflict really boiling underneath the surface of everything.
I think it's even more shown in the episode, the second episode, when the kids actually leave, when they're when they first get out of the atmosphere or whatever. They're like, whoa, there's stars. It's almost like they've not necessarily that they haven't seen stars, but they're like, wow, I didn't know there were so many stars.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's this like cloud. It's a total bubble.
It could be the barrier that blocks out this broader universe. Who knows what they've actually heard about the outside world?
Apparently very little.
Yes, because they know theoretically like what hyperspace is, but they don't necessarily know what it looks like, how it works, and just that it will take you far away. They don't know what a spaceship is.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. They think a spaceship, up until the point where it starts to take off, is just a Jedi temple.
Or just something strange, like just some bunker kind of thing.
Yeah. Nowhere in their mindset is there this belief that it could be anything that big. Mm-hmm. That normal outside of the galaxy is so abnormal in this world.
Yeah. I also think the use of robots is really interesting. Mm-hmm. There's so many of them, and it's so not that they're in places of power, but they are in places that it just inspires rigidity. Like, it just inspires this same old task like thing. It's very what's the word?
Control.
Assembly line kind of thing. Like, it's very much like you're here to produce a thing, to become a thing, to just contribute to this little bubble feeling.
Yeah. I also love going into the pirates side of things, because I think that's going to be a big idea as we go deeper into this time frame. We saw it in The Mandalorian, we saw it somewhat in like the Book of Boba Fett, and now we see it even further as the bad guy kind of focus of this story. You have Jude Law's introduction at the end of episode 2, but I think it's very clear that his actual introduction was at the beginning of the first episode as the kind of captain of the pirates. Mm-hmm. On the outset of the pirates, clearly he's made a few mistakes in the past. His crew doesn't really trust him. And
there was already apparently talk of mutiny before they'd even gotten to the cache or whatever.
So yeah, there's all of this stuff that's happening. And I find it interesting that now we have this like force-sensitive pirate that's going around. Mm-hmm. Is he actually a part of the Jedi? Is he actually a part of the Sith? Or is he just a force-sensitive that has been able to develop his skills and utilize them to great advantage up until the point where he becomes mutinied upon in the galaxy as a pirate? What does that look like? I love this extra flavor and kind of viewpoint of the Force, because the Force in and of itself is neither good nor evil. It is just there, and then it depending on how you utilize that power is how you are focused and corrupted or built upon. And I think that's an interesting perspective to have on the Force, especially in this use case. And we had theorized that previously he was going to be a bad guy in some form or fashion. I like that we're somewhat correct in that theory. And now we're going to see this pay off. But I think there's even more questions and more theories that have come out of that.
As far as the force sensitivity thing goes, we have never seen someone with that much control, even though it is a simple thing, is grabbing that. But even like, I feel like even Luke was like having some sort of structure to be able to even do that. Mm-hmm. So the only time that we've ever seen something like that happen with someone who is untrained is with a child. And I think that speaks a lot to just children and their intuitive natures and stuff like that. And I think that it would be lost over a long time, like over the time that you grow up sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So I have to assume that he has had some sort of training to be able to do that much.
It's
as
possible.
An adult.
But if we look at kind of like The Last Jedi, I think is a clear example of someone casually using the Force. You have the Broom Kid, where the Broom Kid uses the Force just as something that is natural to him.
Right.
And maybe that is kind of like maybe that's the path of like it becomes natural and it's not necessarily like utilized in the most fancy of ways. Like maybe this character of Jod isn't someone who's going to be utilizing the Force to like wield a lightsaber. Maybe he does later on, but maybe not. Maybe this is just a part of his character that he is Force sensitive and he utilizes the Force in these very like simple ways. Maybe he does have this past that he can kind of tie himself into. I think there's just so many questions here. Another question that I have is like, if he could have grabbed the keys at any point utilizing the Force, and he makes himself out to be this character that has been in the brig forever, is that actually the case? Is he just kind of planted there? But if he is planted there, how would he know to be in there at that moment?
Right.
Because everything seems so quickly happening. So there's just some questions there. Like why, if he was able to utilize the Force to grab the key,
why didn't he do it sooner?
Why didn't he do it sooner?
I have to assume that there just wasn't I have to assume that there just wasn't a good time. Like there wasn't an opportunity to have another ship or to be able to escape in a different way.
Yeah, especially like if it as they make it out, this group of pirates seem to be the crew on this spaceport. Maybe it is an effort where everyone else knows that he's in the jail, knows what he's done, knows that he's been mutinied upon, and would not give him a ship, so there's no point in escaping.
Right.
But now that the kids are here, that there's an opportunity, because in theory they have a spaceship, and in theory he could help them get off this planet.
Yep.
I don't know. I just love the fact that this is the motivation of this character, that this is kind of like a mutual aid discussion here.
Yeah.
And I love how different this is. This is not the Mandalorian or Ahsoka where everything happens as you expect it to happen. This is a completely different style of storytelling in Star Wars, and it's unexpected in a way that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said from the beginning, I was like, man, this is legit.
Yeah.
I am very impressed with this.
So far, so good.
Yeah. This is kind of the quality that I'm expecting, at least, from Star Wars at this point.
I mean, yeah, if you're going to do something in Star Wars, I feel like you should make it stand out. You should do something unique. You should utilize the chance that you have to expand the universe. And they're clearly doing that here in a way that I find very fascinating, where it connects to the broader galaxy and kind of underlining. We know about pirates. We've known about them since the Clone Wars. We know that they exist in Star Wars. We've seen them in Rebels. We see them in all of these different pieces of Star Wars as a whole, and now they're bringing in that connective piece, and I think it's a connective piece that something like the Acolyte did not have. Acolyte was trying to be, I think it's a good motivation. It's trying to be separate but also connective in terms of like how it is, but it's still so far removed from anything else in Star Wars that it's hard to really have that through line. And here we have a through line of characters that have been built up over the course of decades, really, and then explored in The Mandalorian, explored in the Book of Boba Fett, explored in all these different mediums that you can really tie into. And they're utilizing a lot of these nostalgic movie-making techniques and storytelling techniques to tie it into a way that leverages the nostalgia in ways that can be effective that other shows in Star Wars have not been able to. And I think that's really cool.
I really appreciate that, especially in the recent TV shows for Star Wars. This idea of pirates has been a thing. Like we've been really started to be truly introduced to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Clone Wars did a bunch of it too, but in just this kind of a way, in this like larger strokes sort of thing.
There's a scale here that's really cool. Yep. Like they have their own spaceport. They have their own kind of hierarchy. They have. Clearly, the New Republic is thinking about pirates and the act of piracy in the galaxy. They have laws, but clearly, because of the fallacy of the belief that the New Republic has any control, which is what ultimately leads to kind of like the upbringing of the First Order, it is very unsuccessful. And the reach that the New Republic wants to have is not realistic in terms of the efforts and outcomes that they want to actually achieve.
Yeah. I mean, even just in just seeing the Mandalorian's pirates versus now, like this one, it's like, oh, we're in the weeds of the pirates now. This isn't just some little band going off attacking a planet.
Yeah, a little tiny Navarro
in a way,
sect or whatever.
In a way, it legitimizes, is that a word? Kind of what happens in Mandalorian and on Jabaro, like, you know, like there is more of a legitimateness because we see, oh, there's now a huge thing going on for the pirates, you know, like it's interesting.
Like, okay, here we go. This is something, they are now a force to be feared, and it's going to add to the perception of pirates and anything else that happens. And I think that's a really cool piece, and it's a benefit of being on the canvas that is Star Wars and being in this galaxy and setting yourself up at the same time frame as these other shows.
Yeah.
So there's a lot here. I'm excited to see what direction these things go. Let us know your thoughts on the Skeleton Crew episodes 1 and 2. We'll love to hear your thoughts, your theories, your expectations. How are you enjoying it? Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact at uplinkpodcast.com if you're listening to this wherever you find podcasts. As always, thank you for listening, and may the Force be with you.